So listen to this. Statement 1. Science is an observation of the natural universe. Science and logic tell us that anything that comes into existence has a cause.
Wrong. You are discussing cause and effect, which is a law that dictates the behavior of pre-existing matter and energy. Nowhere does it even touch the formation of these things. When we make something, all we are in fact doing is reshaping pre-existing materials into a new form. From this, it would be fallacious to conclude that this is true of the formation of either of these things. So already your line of thought is flawed.
It also tells us that anything that has ever existed or is currently existing is not the cause of itself.
We simply do not know this. To our knowledge, besides virtual particles, which have an origin in quantum mechanics, all that has ever come into existence is the universe itself. That is the only true example we have. Therefore, you cannot assert this claim as a fact and then turn around and say that this assertion proves said claim, as that would merely be circular reasoning. The universe was created because the universe is the only known thing to come into existence, and the universe was created because the universe is the only known thing to come into existence, and so forth. Circular reasoning.
The universe began to exist. Therefore, nothing made the universe, and the universe created itself out of nothing. Statement 2. Science is an observation of the natural universe. Science tells us that anything that comes into existence has a cause. It also tells us that anything that has ever existed or is currently existing cannot be the cause of itself because it's material. Therefore, the universe came into existence, and therefore the universe had a cause, and the universe had a creator. You, as a rational thinking human being, you tell me which is more reasonable to believe.
Testable theories which hold scientific vigour and are able to be falsified, at least without being strawmanned by Christians and Muslims on the internet who have a complete disregard for scientific understanding or methodology.
That there was nothing, and nothing happened to nothing, and because nothing happened to nothing, nothing happened that magically made something happen that made everything, or that there was nothing and then something happened to nothing to make everything, and that something can only be outside of the universe, because if it's inside the universe, it cannot make the universe. Come on. I mean, come on.
Here is why a quantum model is far superior to a theistic model. On quantum mechanics, we know it exists. We know its qualities, it is not bound by general universal laws and can temporarily create matter in a form of virtual particles and is testable. What do I mean by this? Well, quantum mechanics works on the tiny scale. Therefore, to form the universe, we'd expect to see the shift from a minuscule state to the current universal state, an expansion from singularity to all this. That's where the Big Bang comes in. The Big Bang describes the first few moments of the universe, not the origins. However, it does allow us to test quantum origin, and they do seem to comply. As for God, he has not been proven to exist, making for an unnecessary assumption. This also means his qualities are unknown, making for more unnecessary assumptions. How can you describe that which is yet unknown? Lastly, it's not a testable model, ergo, theistic origins is assumption heavy and lacks falsifiability, so must be rejected for superior alternatives.
David Silverman is a new atheist and a Jew. Now, he had the reason that I bring him forward is because he has a debate with a apologetic called Frank Turek, and he wanted to argue an atheistic standpoint, which a lot of atheists don't actually know, is that there is either no objective truth, or there is no truth, or sometimes both. But the problem with this argument within a worldview is this: if there is no objective truth, then you have no reason to believe atheism is true, because atheism claims to be objectively true. Do you get it? Or if there is no truth, then you have no reason to believe atheism is true. So with those two standpoints held within the atheistic worldview, I have, according to atheism, I have no reason to believe atheism is true. And this is according to David Silverman, who is a new atheist who went about preaching this stuff and promoting and debating about it like it was true. So essentially, even if some of the stuff atheism promoted was legit, which sometimes it is, because it's science, even if it was, you have no reason to believe that the core, that is, there is no God, is even true to begin with.
First of all, atheists have no authorities. All this would show is that David Silverman alone is a fool, if that were the case. I've never actually heard the idea of objective truth in apologetics, which makes me wonder if you're confused with absolute truth. Objective truth exists, in my opinion. Whether we as human beings can perceive that objective truth is another matter. But on the topic of absolute truth, of course it doesn't exist. We have reasonable justifications for perceiving truth. This is why we partake in reasoning and discourse. The only way a person could claim to know absolute truth would be to obtain omniscience. But even then, they could never be certain as to whether they had omniscience, as their belief that they had said quality could merely be wrong, and they'd never be able to know for certain. I don't know if I just invented a paradox of omniscience there, but I hope it gets the point across. Atheists don't have authorities, so it doesn't matter what another atheist said. Also, new atheists are just atheists who no longer keep quiet when theists demand that they follow their religious dogma.
And let me clear something up. People often assume that science and God oppose, or science and religion oppose. That view is false simply because science is a means of explaining things, right? You cannot explain away Henry Ford by looking at a Ford car and saying, hey, because I see a Ford and the laws that are used to make the Ford, that must mean Henry Ford doesn't exist. No.
That was an awful analogy. A better analogy is that we find some trees laying at an angle on a hill. We find no sign of tool usage, no signs of planning. However, you claim that this is a synthetic leprechaun-made shelter, and I merely state that I've yet to see said leprechauns or any evidence of leprechauns, thus doubt their existence. Humans have been proven to exist. God has not. Automobiles, by definition, are man-made. The universe is not by definition God-made. Ford has a written history which can be cross-examined with non-Ford documentation, e.g. government tax forms as well as Ford's birth certificate. Your apparent God and the leprechauns have none of these.
Now I'm going to end with a quote by a famous agnostic called David Berlinski, and the reason I chose an agnostic is so that I tell you something that is not from my worldview. Okay, this is a guy who doesn't believe in God, and this is what he concluded. He's very smart, and he's wrote the book The Devil's Delusion. Just hear me out, all right? Has anyone provided a proof of God's inexistence? Not even close. Has quantum cosmology explained the emergence of the universe and or why it is here? Not even close. Have the sciences explained why our universe seems to be so fine-tuned to allow for the existence of life? Not even close.
Actually, on that last one, we have. The universe is definitely not fine-tuned for life. Some estimations put the number of stars in the observable universe at 70 billion trillion. That is a 7 followed by 22 noughts. Each star has its own set of planets, some in the habitable zone, most outside. Life was mathematically probable. As for not knowing the origins of the universe for certain, so what? We're working on it rather than claiming the answer with absolute conviction.
Are physicists and biologists willing to believe in anything so long as it is not religious thought? Close enough.
Citation needed.
Has rationalism in moral thought provided us with any understanding of what is good, what is right, and what is moral? Not even close.
Well, yeah, ethical discourse with a rational and empathetic basis has made for a kinder general population. Great examples of this are the Scandinavian nations.
Has secularism in the terrible 20th century been a force for good? Not even close to being close.
Funny, the 20th century is a relatively good century. Less people died proportionally, medical science advanced, social justice movements, which are still fighting today, really took off. Leading the way, the secular left. Now I note the secular left, not the non-religious left, as religious individuals can still support secular values. So what the hell is this person on about?
Is there a narrow and oppressive orthodoxy of thought and opinion within the sciences? Close enough.
Citation needed.
Does anything in the scientists or in their philosophy justify the claim that religious belief is irrational? Not even in the ballpark.
Can the religious justify their beliefs utilizing reason? No. Then religious belief is by definition unreasonable.
Is scientific atheism a frivolous exercise in intellectual contempt? Dead on. And that's where I'm going to end it.
Very good. Allow me to be frank with you. Your quotes of the opposition are always taken out of context or edited. Those used to try and support yourself are pure drivel without any basis, typically factually wrong, and attempts to use them is also a mere argument from authority. Your own arguments are half-rate, having been demolished by science and secular philosophy decades ago. Your lack of understanding of science, both in what it shows and its methodology, is appalling. What on earth you hoped to achieve through this is just unknown. It could not have been the desire to provide a reasonable argument, as there's not even the minimal attempt made here. Honestly, you need to step up the game, or I suggest seriously reconsidering this aspect of your channel. It really is just that shocking.